Hey guys, Anthony here with Webacktesla. Webacktesla because they make awesome products that just keep getting better, and they have an awesome mission. If you're at all curious about the Model 3 Standard Range Plus, we've got a ton of videos. And if you're in the market, we've got a referral link down below, but that's enough of that because today I owe you guys part 2 of my video that I made about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Short story is the city came and ripped up my sidewalk. I lost access to my garage and my home charging situation for over a week, and I had to figure out how I was gonna live with the Tesla without a garage and solely relying on public charging. Now, at first I was kind of irritated, but then I was like, this is a good opportunity to test this out. I know a lot of you guys that are interested in a Tesla don't all own homes and won't have the luxury of being able to charge where you live. So now I got to experience it for myself. So the first thing I want to touch on is how I figured out where the heck I was going to charge this thing and try to integrate it into my normal everyday life. Second thing I want to talk about is my realization and my lessons learned regarding phantom drain and Sentry mode. I made a graph, we'll get to that in a little bit, kind of showing the difference between Sentry mode being on all the time and not using Sentry mode at all. It's a bigger difference than I thought it was going to be, and it's definitely something you have to think about when you don't have access to charging at home every night. The third thing is just talking about my opinion on whether this is actually a viable thing for people who don't own a home or aren't able to charge where they live. Is it viable to own a Tesla or an EV? So first, how the heck did I figure out where I was going to charge and how did it go? So the first thing I did, and I suggest that you guys do if you don't own an EV or a Tesla, is download the PlugShare app. PlugShare seems to be the best app that I've found to show all the public chargers, all the different charging situations, whether it's going to be a Tesla or another EV like the Chevy Bolt. You can filter by different charging types and just figure out what's in your area, and definitely be on the lookout for chargers that are free. There's a lot more free chargers out there than I thought when I first got into the EV world. And what's better than free fuel? You can't find a gas station that'll give you gas for free, right? So that's what I did. I opened up PlugShare. I already kind of have a good idea of all the chargers in my area, but I wanted to find a public charger in my area that I could use and integrate easily into my life. And I did find one. It was free, a Tesla destination charger, but I also wanted to test out using the supercharger for a few days. I have the luxury of having a supercharger downtown in Colorado Springs right near where I work. So that definitely worked out for me. I know not everybody's gonna have a supercharger in a very convenient area, but definitely be on the lookout for that, because that's the first thing that I did. I spent a couple days on the first week that I had to deal with this, taking my lunch time and just driving down to the supercharger, plugging in. It took about 40 minutes for me to charge up to about 90%. Then I went back to work, and then when I got home, I had about 80% left to just kind of start the 24-hour period again. And that'll make more sense when I get to my graph. So the supercharger worked out great. It was easy to work in on a few of my lunches in the week. Again, I know that's not going to be everyone's situation, but if you have a supercharger in your area that is within reason for you to get to, charging solely on the supercharger can be a great way to live with a Tesla when you don't have access to charging where you live. Now, I know supercharging is not the best thing for your battery, but honestly, Tesla's software and their battery management system does a phenomenal job. And if you don't have charging at home, you got to do what you got to do. Now, one of the other things you can do is working in a destination charger or one of the slower chargers that might be in your area as well. So on the weekends, when you go shopping, find a charger near somewhere where you could go shop or go eat and use one of those chargers so you can mix. And that's kind of what I did, is I used the supercharger and the destination charger when it was most convenient for me. So talking quickly about the destination charger I hit, there was one near a place that had a bunch of food, and on the weekend we went ahead and just drove down there, plugged in. We spent about an hour and a half just eating, just hanging out, not really worrying too much, and I was able to get about 30% back on the battery. If you needed more than that, then you just have to wait a little bit longer to try to get up to 40, 50, 60%, whatever you need for your use case. For me, the 30% was plenty, and that actually worked out great. So using the mix of the supercharger and the destination charger worked out great for me. But now I want to get to the chart I made and the realization I had with Sentry mode and phantom drain. So I found that Sentry mode is definitely a luxury that I took for granted because I could charge every night. I never thought about it. I just always had it enabled. I was parked at work, if I was parked at the gym, and just anywhere I was parked, Sentry mode's always enabled, which is awesome. Like, that comes standard with the base car, and it's just an awesome feature. But if you don't have charging every night where you live, then that can be a problem, and you have to be more deliberate with when you use Sentry mode. So I made this chart. It came out better in my head when I was like, let me hand draw this, and hopefully you guys can read it. I did the best I could. As you can see, I have state of charge on the y-axis and distance traveled on the x-axis. I have the starting charge at about 80% because that's what I ended up coming home with on nights that I did charge. It was around 80%. Around 8 p.m. is when I parked the car and left it for the night till the next morning. So you'll see that this is broken up in 24-hour blocks, 8 p.m. being the time that I, park for the night, come home, go to bed, do all the things we do at night. So the red line shows you guys what it was like using Sentry mode all the time. So I was losing about 9 to 10% overnight from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. when I had to take my daughter to school. And then I lost about 2 or 3% on top of that when I started the climate in my car, because it is winter. As you could see in some of the footage, it was snowing, my car was frozen, so I wanted to heat up the car, so that's what I did. Losing about 12% every night with the car parked kind of sucked. You can see how much that stair steps down. Definitely ups the frequency that you need to charge if you're going to use Sentry mode all the time. So as you can see with the green line, I spent a few days not using Sentry mode at night or at work. I just completely shut off Sentry mode, and you can see my phantom drain, it surprised me a little bit, but phantom drain was not really a big issue at all. Overnight, there was only one night where I saw 1% drop, and all the other nights it stayed the same from when I parked it and then I opened my app to turn the climate on for the morning. So that was awesome, which means I can make the charge stretch a lot longer if I don't use Sentry mode, or I just sparsely use it in the most high risk areas of where I park my car. I just have to be smarter about when I use Sentry mode. So using Sentry mode, I could max go about 2 days before I had to figure out where I was going to charge and get my battery back up to about 80%. Not using Sentry mode, I was able to stretch it to 4 days, which is awesome. And if you have a supercharger, spending 40 minutes charging that thing back up isn't a big deal every 3 or 4 days. So yeah, that was the biggest thing I got out of this whole experience, was realizing how much Sentry mode actually took from my battery, because I never really paid attention to it until it became very important that I paid attention to how much charge I had. Now, do I think that it is smart for someone who has an apartment or a townhome to get a Tesla or an EV? In my opinion, yes, it can be, depending on your use case, depending on your public charging in your area, and depending on how much you drive on a daily basis. If your commute is similar to mine, you can kind of see the numbers, and hopefully my chart helps you out, but it is doable and I know people do it. And even in the standard range plus, which is the lowest range EV that Tesla offers, there is the standard range, but you have to jump through a few hoops to get that. But the standard range plus is the best value out there. At 250 miles of EPA rated range, it's a fantastic value, and it's something that can work for someone who lives in an apartment or a townhome. It can work. For me personally, if I didn't own this house and I lived in an apartment still that we lived in about 5 years ago, and we wanted to get into the EV world, I wouldn't hesitate for a second. Everything about this car, the software updates, the driving experience of having the instant torque, the ways that this car continually improves, everything about it makes it worth having to deal with altering your life a little bit to figure out how you're going to charge the thing. Just owning the car, driving the car, it's definitely worth it. So if you guys have any questions about this topic or just EVs in general, please contact me in the comments, email, Instagram, Twitter, everything in the description. I did get the Supercharging Boost software update that I'm going to be hopefully testing out. I'm trying to drain the battery so that I can go to the supercharger and see if I do get up to that 150 kilowatt max at this supercharger. Supposedly the standard range plus get up to 170 kilowatts. I don't really know if I'll be able to test that because I don't know where the closest V3 supercharger is besides Las Vegas maybe. So be on the lookout for a test of the supercharging speed. If you guys are subscribed, thank you. If you're not, please consider it. If you drive an EV, seriously thank you. And if you don't, you have to seriously consider it, because these cars are awesome. I'm going to stop blabbing. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys in the next video.